Welcome back to the canon. Today I'm going to get into some Justice League spoiler talk. I'm going to start off doing some spoiler talk going throughout the movie. So if you haven't seen it, I suggest you watch the non-spoiler preview. Go see it and check this out. But then at the end of the movie, I'm going to get into some lessons that I learned after watching Justice League and what it means for me going forward, what it means for the genre, what it means for Warner Brothers and all those good things. But first, let's get into the movie. So I finally saw the movie a second time, so now I'm ready to really talk about it. And I will say that I overall really enjoyed it. It's so much better the second time, I would honestly say, because once you've seen it the first time, you know what's coming. The first time you're watching, you're like, oh man, I don't know what's coming. And then once you see it all and you know it all, then you can appreciate it the second time and realize just how much you get as you're sitting there like, oh, this scene is coming. Oh, this scene is coming. You realize how much you actually get in this movie. So anyway, you start off with one of the most best Zack Snyder Batman scenes I've seen. It just felt Snyder. It felt Batman. It was cool. It was in Gotham, on the rooftops where Batman likes to hang out. And he's essentially using a crook to lure a parademon. Now, we don't know this, of course, at first. So it's just like, whoa, he's dangling a dude off a building. I thought this movie got lighter. And then the parademon comes and Batman fights with him. It's just so stylized. It just looks so good. And it's such a great way to kick off the movie with this OG Batman in Gotham, doing his thing. And I just absolutely loved it. So then after that, you get an amazing opening credits scene. I think this is one that a lot of people forget about because it's early in the movie, but you got that song playing. I don't know whose the song is, but it's just talking about everybody knows how the dice was loaded. Everybody knows the ship is sinking. The captain left. Everybody knows the good guys lost. And you got this montage of how the world has been affected by Superman. We get this slow motion scene of this guys, of these two white guys, messing with these, Middle Eastern people and these Muslim people and then getting arrested by cops. We got, everybody walking past a homeless man. It's a real commentary on the world. And I felt like this picks up right where BVS left off, where we're commentating on the world and we're really looking at, a mirror of ourselves. How will we react if an alien came? How will we react once he left? People found a lot of hope in Superman. And now that he's gone, the world's kind of gone back to its darkness. And then we see, Mama Kent leaving her foreclosed home, all that stuff. I just thought that scene was very amazing and underappreciated. So then we get a great action sequence with Wonder Woman. And so, of course, you get the shot from the trailer where she's on that statue. Then she, really comes in and wreck shops on this, terrorist group. And it really just shows like a powerful Wonder Woman. We came off the original origin Wonder Woman where she was pretty good. But this shows like fully realized Wonder Woman. Super fast, super strong, knows exactly what she's doing. My favorite shot is her holding this dude up by the lasso. She's just powerful. She's such a monster. So then from there, we kind of get like little scenes of everybody. We get this, little scene where, we meet, I don't even know I guess Dr. Stone. He's at Star Labs and then he goes home. This is one of my favorite scenes with Cyborg. And like Cyborg is so underappreciated in this movie. It's at least Ray Fisher's performance. I did not know what to expect. I keep saying that. And I just thought his voice was amazing because his face is CGI and his whole body is CGI. He does good stuff with his face, but I think his voice is where the performance comes from. And he did sound like Cyborg, like how I would imagine him to sound. And he's always had a pronounced voice in whatever iteration you've seen. So anyway, he comes in and, his dad's talking, you can have a life. And he's just like, I'm processing. I have all this information, but I can't put it together. And he sounds like a robot. And then my favorite line is just like, I didn't think they were ready. And then Cyborg says, you don't think they're ready to see the monster? And he said, you're not a monster, son. it's weird that you thought I was talking about me. I was like, oh my God. Okay. This dude has some layers to him. So that was extra exciting. But then, we get the scene where Bruce goes to see Aquaman. Now that one I didn't like. I didn't like anything about that. We saw it in the trailers. My thing is, you know who Arthur Curry is. You have the file on him. He's standing right next to you and you still talking to the whole group about this stranger. Like, you know who it is. Just talk to him. Come on, that was stupid. I thought it would have been better if Arthur was in the back of the bar somewhere listening to this and, Batman was trying to really get the information from people and then he mentions Arthur Curry and then he stands up and confronts him. I thought that's how it would have went. And then the conversation afterwards was kind of lackluster. I don't know. I didn't really mind that one too much. Or I didn't really like that one too much, I should say. But then we get Barry Allen, going to see his father in jail, which is a staple for the origin of Flash. I just thought everybody had a nice little intro sequence, if you will, to really give us a glimpse at, kind of what's going on. And then, from there, we get, the reason for everybody to come together. Batman goes out and recruits Barry Allen. And that scene was fine. We've seen it like so many times in the trailers and the previews. So nothing wrong with that. But I really did like Diana's sequence with Cyborg where he hacks the computers again, showing that he continues to grow. And then she going to meet him face to face. I liked her little monologue talking about how she lost someone. She had to learn to open up. The reason you're here or the fact that you're here shows that you're still trying to work on it. But then he ultimately leaves. So I like that he didn't easily come along. So then eventually we get to a point where they all end up coming together because of Steppenwolf. And Steppenwolf, we get a nice little scene where he attacks the Amazons. Now I will say this, and it might be controversial. This whole thing with the bikinis and Amazons, like, okay, it wasn't that controversial to me. And I know I'm a male, so I don't count. But to me, they looked strong. I wasn't looking like, ooh, yeah, ladies. I was like, they look strong. And I'm like, this kind of shows off even more how impressive that these women are that they found. And that it wasn't like just me appreciating it. There's a lot of women in the crowd next to me and everything like, oh my God, look how strong they are. Like when they're holding up the doors, when the queen's trying to escape and everything. And I thought it just showed off more the impressive specimens that these women are. I didn't think it was like trying to be disrespectful. Like they were still doing amazing things. They weren't just, sitting there looking pretty. So I don't know. I know that it was different from the Wonder Woman movie, but I just didn't think it was that big of a controversy. So Steppenwolf goes there. I thought it was a great scene with the women working together, keep the box away. And then he goes to Atlantis where he kind of wrecks shop there. So Steppenwolf sets up this whole reason for them to get together. He, of course, takes, or the Parademons takes Dr. Stone. So now Cyborg wants to join the fight. Now Aquaman wants to join the fight. And then we get this warm-up fight down in the harbor where you have a nice little moment of, reconciliation when Cyborg saves his dad, even though from what we've seen, he doesn't like him. He's mad at him, but he saves his dad. He develops a gun just to fire at Steppenwolf to save his dad. So that was fun. Nice little hero moment with Batman talking to Flash, telling him just save one person. Then what? You'll know. And, being the OG coach. And so everybody's firing on all cylinders to me. Batman's getting it in, Batman style. He's got the gadgets. Cyborg's doing his thing. And then, Wonder Woman is just straight. Like, she's not scared. She told Steppenwolf, you overestimating yourself. He like, look, I just killed a whole bunch of your sisters. What are you gonna do? But he don't know Wonder Woman. So I thought that was a nice warm-up fight. And then at the end, to have them almost drown and have Aquaman save them, I thought that was smart. And it kind of showed off his power. The one thing I'll say is, though, you see he pops up with a trident and a new suit. Now, at his last moment with Mirror, he says, there's something I'm gonna need from you. So obviously they cut out the scene where he gets his uniform and stuff, but he shows up, helps them out. And so it's like, okay, now everybody's together. Then it got a little weird because I'm thinking like, how they gonna get out of here? Cyborg just leaves, and then next scene they're all out, whatever. But then you hear Aquaman comes up dressed like a bat, like, which was a funny callback to earlier. Then they all reconvene like superheroes do, and that's when Batman has the idea to resurrect Clark. And at this point, I'm like, no way. I'm like, that's not how he comes back. And so we get this nice scene between Batman and Diana where they're fighting, or arguing, I should say. And Batman does some low blow stuff. He does some low blow stuff. And I would honestly say that's one of the things I didn't like, is that he was too animated in this movie. Bruce Wayne is not like that. He's calm and collected, brooding. He was too animated talking to Diana, but you had that nice little scene. And so eventually they decide to do it, which leads to this nice scene of Flash and Cyborg grave robbing. And a lot of people say that was weird. I thought it was fun. We're seeing our heroes in situations we haven't seen them before. And so that's the fun part of it. And then you have this whole conversation about how we're the accidents. And I think it sets up this chemistry where you could get a Flash Cyborg spinoff movie. And then eventually we get a great sequence of them resurrecting Clark. Now I will say I thought they were going to go the route where it didn't work and something else was going to have to happen, but it worked. And then we get this amazing sequence. I don't care what anyone says, when he fights the Justice League. Like, you just see how much raw power he has. And so he's confused, and then Cyborg's defense systems fire at him, and then he takes off on everybody. And you got the amazing part, which I knew it was coming, but I didn't know how deep it would go into it, where Flash is running in the Speed Force, and he's like, okay, I'm about to, make an attack. And then he sees Superman eye move, and he's like, what? I've never seen no one move at the speed I'm moving. And so I'm thinking they're just going to leave it at that. No, Superman drops them and then is moving as fast as Barry and fights him in the Speed Force. Well, almost as fast. Barry's still faster, but that was just like, oh my God. And then he's pulling Wonder Woman with her lasso. Like, nobody's messing with Superman. He headbutts Wonder Woman into the ground, and then he sees Batman, and it's just two great lines. Tell me, do you bleed? Call back to BVS. But then you get the line where Batman says the world needs you, and Superman pauses, and he's like, but does it need you? And that's how Batman always feels, especially when Superman came on the scene. Batman has a death wish. We know he knew he could have died, but he wanted Superman to be that light, that hope. Much like Batman in the Nolan series wanted Harvey Dent to be that hope. But anyway, so great lines. Lois comes and saves them. They reconvene again, and they're like, crap, we just got beat. And it's kind of some infighting where you got Aquaman talking crap to Cyborg because he fired at him. And then you got Flash is kind of being annoying. Everybody's kind of fighting, but then they start going to their own little spots and working until eventually they find out where they need to go to fight Steppenwolf. In the middle of that, you got Superman back home with Lois. His mom comes and he's just, kind of coming back to who he is. What I will say is that this should have been a stronger sequence altogether. It should have been so much stronger because after everything we went to, the emotion and all that, it should have been a little more emotional to see him come back to his mom. But I feel like they rushed past that. And then everything after that is kind of the whole infighting sequence, which was cool. You got some cool stuff. You had Superman use his freeze breath. Superman just showed how strong he was in general. There was a great moment where Wonder Woman's pulling Steppenwolf away from Cyborg with a lasso and she's struggling, and Aquaman grabs it and they both pull him down. It's like, these are the two guys, the demigods. And I don't know, it was so many cool moments. It was cool moments that I thought showcased comic book nature of our heroes. And so, the ending is the ending, and it was all good. So Yeah, that was pretty much the movie. I mean, really, that was. I mean, all the cool parts I kind of got to, and yeah, we had fun. So that's the spoiler talk. So I'm gonna bring up the two end credit scenes. Number one, we get Flash versus Superman in the race. I love that they thought of that and wanted to show that. I do think it could have been saved for another movie. I really would have loved that as an opening. Or even tying it into a plot. Like, kind of like the episode in the animated series where it's a charity event going on, Flash versus Superman in a race. Maybe start off the movie with that. I thought that would have been better than the whole Rocky, let's start the race and cut away and we don't know who won type of deal. But it's just great that they were thinking about it and that they wanted to give that to us. But I do think they could have waited. Now this last end credit scene. We got Lex Luthor, used as somebody to to escape Arkham Asylum. And so there's a fake person pretending to be Luthor there. We don't know how long Luthor's been out. Luthor's sitting on a yacht. A speedboat shows up and it's Deathstroke. And then Luthor pretty much says that, Superman and his friends are forming some type of league. Times are changing. Why don't we have a league of our own? And we see Deathstroke, Slade Wilson, Joe Manganiello, all that good stuff. And it's just a tease to either a Legion of Doom or maybe an Injustice League, because he said League of Our Own, but I think that was just a movie reference. So he might be talking about the Legion of Doom, which was a crazy, geeky, amazing after credit scene. Like probably the best end credit scene you've seen in any of these comic book movies, because it was just on so many levels good. But that leads me into my next point. My first point, as we go into the lessons I learned from Justice League. Lesson number one, Warner Brothers still has no idea what they're doing, because number one, we heard that Lex Luthor was cut from the movie. Now that could have been just to save it as a tease for the end of the movie, as a surprise. But I'm going to go on a limb and say that the way they were reacting to Jesse and the people were reacting to Lex, they really made it seem like they didn't want him anywhere near this movie. And if you follow the news, Lex in this whole scene was shot by Zack Snyder a long time ago. And so there was real talks of not using this. And then at the last minute, it ends back in the movie. Now, the bigger reason is for anything is Deathstroke. Like you could talk about the CG in the movie. You could talk about the rush pace. You could talk about two directors. But when I saw Deathstroke, that was the moment I said Warner Brothers still has no idea what they're doing, because Deathstroke returned to the Arrow TV show. Now, if you watch the TV shows, that's where they test people at. They test to see how the audience likes it. If they like it, they pull it up to the movies and take it off the TV show. Suicide Squad, Harley Quinn, they were all on Arrow. They took them away when they made the movie. Deathstroke, they took them away, killed them all because they said, hey, we're going to make a movie. And then Joe Manganiello came out and said, hey, I don't know if I'm in this movie anymore because they got a new director, new script. I haven't heard anything. And then all of a sudden, Deathstroke is back on Arrow. So it was pretty confirmed that he's not going to be in the movies. But then you show him. So, number one, you 100% did not know what you was doing with Deathstroke. I don't care what anyone says. It wasn't planned out. They gave him back to the TV show. Joe had no idea if he's in the script. Matt Reeves didn't say he was in the script. But then you show him in the movie, so now he's established. Now he's part of the canon. And so you're going to have to follow that up at some point, or just completely ignore it. So then what was the point in showing it in the first place? And so, again, this just shows that Warner Brothers, instead of looking long term, chases the quick dollar. They threw this movie together before it needed to be done, and then they're doing things that they just want a cheap thrill instead of laying solid foundation. And that was probably the most disheartening thing, because they know that they've been beat up by the fans, beat up by the critics, and so they're just kind of reacting and doing things. Now, lesson number 2. Speaking of the critics, there's a DC bias, there's a tone bias, and it's real. I felt that way kinda a little bit, but I felt like, that might just be the DC fan in me. But when you really stop and break it down, it is definitely there, and I noticed it after Justice League. 2 things that really focus up the way I thought. Number 1, Chris Stuckman, superstar YouTube reviewer, had said something at the end of his review that really struck a chord with me, where he said that this movie seemed to be a lot more cookie cutter. I'm paraphrasing, but a lot more cookie cutter and dumbed down so that a lot more people could enjoy it. It had to be fluffy. And so he said, are we at the point where we're so inundated with superhero movies that a movie has to be fluffy in order for us to even start appreciating it? And he's like, can you have it both ways? Can a movie be fluffy entertaining and also deal with serious content? And he said he doesn't know if that's true. And so that just is something I've been saying, but I really wrapped my head around it when he said that, is that, wow, some people out there see it. They see it the way I didn't make that up in my head. That in order for people to really universally like something, it has to be digestible. It has to be cookie cutter. It has to be fluffy. It has to be hopeful. And I don't agree, but I know it's a bias, because when I'm going to see an Oscar movie or I'm going to see a movie with heavy content, it's tough. I got emotionally, mentally prepared. I know I'm about to be challenged. I'm either about to have to really think, or I'm about to feel some type of stuff. And it's not easy. That's the reason people don't go see those movies over and over. Some movies are great, like Detroit, and you never want to see it again. But these movies that are fluffy, fun, jokes, light, colorful, I could easily take that. I don't have to think too much. It's not emotional too much. I can keep going to see that. And so people, it's a lot easier for a lot of people to like it. A lot of people to go see Justice League, little kids, babies, older people, young people, couples. It's easier than BVS, where it's a lot more real. And you see it in the critics' reviews, which they sit here and say, this was a fun ride, or we got more of what we love from Marvel, the same old Marvel fun, and blah, blah, blah. And so it absolutely brings up the idea that in order to be successful in this genre, you can't dig too deep into the darkness. Now, the other problem we got is the DC bias, in which there was an article by Screen Rant, a great article, talking about why Marvel always will have the upper hand. And they basically said Superman and Batman, Wonder Woman are iconic characters, and that they've had TV shows, comic books going all the way back. And so people grow up with an idea of what they want them to be. And so instead of just enjoying the iteration you get, you're constantly comparing and ranking them in your head. And you really have an idea of what you want to see from these characters. As on the other side, Marvel, these people were known, they had the shows, but outside Spider-Man, they're not iconic. And you really think about the one that had the most controversy is Spider-Man. Because Tony Stark and Iron Man, Thor, Hulk, these people don't have decades and decades to compare it to. Marvel had the chance to really shape what they want it to be. As I tell people all the time, the Iron Man you get in the MCU is not the Iron Man from the comics and the TV show. He is not the same person at all. And so, but they were able to do that because people didn't know who that was. The general audience didn't know any of that. And so you gave them your version, and it was a lot easier for them to say, yeah, I really like that. And so, like they said, in every movie, Marvel's one job was just to keep giving you that same flavor they gave you the first time because you liked it. Whereas DC will always have to please a lot of fans, and it's not going to work. This Batman in Justice League, I hated. A lot of people liked him so much more. Some people hated this Superman, some people liked it. Like, there's going to be people that want to go darker to that iteration of Superman. There's going to be people that want him to be the big blue Boy Scout. There's going to be people that want Wonder Woman to do this, do that. And so you're always going to be fighting an uphill battle where you can't please the masses. And people can't have it both ways. If you say the critics are people just like us and fans, then they have bias just like fans. They grew up with Superman and Batman just like fans, and they watch the movie and automatically judge it based off how they want Superman and Batman to be. And so if you're going to sit here and tell me a critic's just a fan, then they're biased. And DC is always going to have a fight because people have an idea of what they want these DC heroes to look like. So now that brings me to my next point. I did have a revelation. This whole time I was like, you know, Marvel is one type of character. They're science-based, they're not gods, except for Thor, blah, blah, blah. You can do the lightheartedness, blah, blah, blah with them. DC, they're a little more nuanced, they're a little more deeper, so the tone has to be more serious. It can be grounded, works best with them. Nolan showed that with Batman, and then they followed that up with Man of Steel. Grounded, realistic works best with them because you can really get into these characters. And I said them going to a light tone would just disrupt it. Now, watching Justice League, completely right. Flipping the tone out of nowhere was jarring to me. And I didn't appreciate it. But after watching the movie, I can say it worked. I saw potential in how a Justice League and DC universe could be cookie cutter to a point. How it can be more glossy and fun on the top and not so much deep into the story. That even though it won't be as fulfilling, it would still be very entertaining. And I'm not talking about this group. I'm talking about down the line when we try it again. There is promise and hope in having this universe be kind of like Marvel's, you know, popcorn entertainment style. As where I was so deep into Suicide Squad and Man of Steel and BVS, I'm like, there's no way you could ever do it the way Marvel does, but you can. Because if anything else I learned out of Justice League, it is that the hope of this going forward is in the characters. The money, the value is in the characters, the property, not the actors, not the directors, not the studios. It's in the property. Batman talking to Wonder Woman saying, hey, you could dress up like a bat, I won't even sue. That would be fun no matter who was, if it was Ben Affleck, Gal Gadot or not. Seeing our live action heroes on screen is the value of this franchise. And that is what we want to see going forward, no matter which tone you go. Now, you need to pick one tone and stay that way. And to make money, it might have to be the fluffy tone, but DC can make that work. These characters can thrive in that, and I didn't believe that last week, but now I do. And so that gives me a lot of hope, knowing that whatever you choose to do when you go forward, DC is the strength of the franchise. The characters are the strength, and you can do whichever way you want to do it. And so that does lead me to my last point. It's time for a reboot, baby. Hashtag Team Reboot now. That's what I've always said, always been. And I wanted that because I wanted them to restructure. I like the movies. I love some of the movies. And Justice League's no different. I really like this movie. But they need to restructure. They're reactionary to everything. This movie is a product of that. They rush to get the release date when they know they needed more time. They just want quick money instead of long-term success. And so they need to start over. They need to take everybody out, and they need to really make a structure into which someone is running the overall vision. Not a director. An executive is running the overall vision. They help pick everybody. They help approve the stories. And then they also have checks and balances where the studio doesn't just come in and straight changes everything. You got to have the patience. You got to have the plan to let the plan execute itself. And so that's what I want. I've been #reboot now, and even more so after this. And I went into Justice League like, I hope it sucks so I could just let this whole franchise go. But you know what? Honestly, what we got was even better. It did show me like going forward, we can do this, that style. It can be done that way. We just need to give it the time and proper resources. It's not with this group. I'm sorry. It's not with this group. You guys were great, but it's not with you guys. It needs to stop for about 3 to 5 years and reboot itself and come back stronger than ever and really give us everything that we deserve out of the DC property. And so to that end, I feel like I'm possibly going to stop the movie talk. My younger brother really didn't point this out, but I saw it in him when we went to see Justice League. He didn't know the Rotten Tomatoes score. And so afterwards, he was just like, okay, what would you give it? And, he gave me his rating. And then I'm like, man, Rotten Tomatoes is this. And like, he was like, that's crazy, but it didn't affect him. He watched the movie just for the movie. He just watched the movie and enjoyed it and said what it is to him without any outside influence. And he didn't know. And so I was like, man, Henry Cavill's lip was weird. What? I was like, you don't know about the mustache thing? No, I didn't know nothing about that. I didn't notice it. And so I'm wondering, would I have even noticed it if I didn't know about it? If I wasn't looking for it? And so I just got real envious and I stopped and thought like, you know what? These movies are meant to experience. Cause I'm in it. I'm in the news. I'm in the videos. I'm in the feeds. I have to. That's what I do for this channel. I'm barely getting by as it is, but I have to do that to stay current. And I always wonder, does it affect my experience? And I definitely think it does. I wouldn't watch all the trailers. I wouldn't look at all the news if I didn't have to, because a lot of people say, this isn't a spoiler, but this scene is great. And I don't know what the scene is, I'm now looking for that scene when I go. Or this isn't a spoiler, but there's something cool that happened. Now I'm looking for that. And I say people have different spoiler sensitivity levels. I'm starting to think mine is high. I don't want to know what scenes to look for. I don't want to be anticipating this and that. I just want to let the movie come to me and experience it. And so to that end, and then on top of that, this bias with DC and all that. And I think we're going to get some good stuff. I think we're going to get some good stuff, positive stuff, and it's going to be good. But I think there's a death in the creativity. I don't think we'll ever get BVS again. I don't think we'll ever get Man of Steel again. I don't think we'll ever explore that side of heroes because it's not profitable. And because critics have an idea of what superhero movies are and they're not coming here for character deep dives. And so they want action, they want this and that. Because even Logan, and a lot of people say Logan's rated R, it's dark, it's gritty. It is, but it's a lot of action. And that's what you think of Wolverine, a R-rated slashing type dude. And while it had great acting, great moments, great CGI, and I will be the first to say Justice League does not hit all the CGI and action requirements, but Logan, at the end of the day, was probably praised more for the action pieces than it was for the character development, at least by the critics. You just look at the stuff they write about. And so I don't think we'll ever see the day where people really dig into that side. And even if, they make those side projects, they don't make $1 billion. The big money is in these fluffy team up movies. And so it kind of disheartens me. And it's like, well, why sit through all this extra stuff while, we're going to get the same old. I might as well just go and enjoy it for what it is instead of always reporting and digging into it. I think Hollywood and the people have spoken. The money is in one style, and I think that's what we're going to get going forward. So, for a lot of reasons, I think I'm going to contemplate it, but I'm leaning towards just letting all of that go and letting this all go and just becoming a regular fan again. But anyway, so that's my lessons from Justice League. Go to comment sections. Let me know what you think. Thumbs up, subscribe, and if you heard it here, it's official canon.